Hi everyone, thank you for joining our June Broker Roundtable meeting. We have California AJI brokers Ken Moon and Jeff Green here. They will be discussing contingencies, buyer cancellations, and contingency removal. If anyone has any questions throughout the webinar, please type those into the questions box so we will be able to see them. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Victoria, and thank you everybody for attending. We're glad to have you here, and we have an action-packed roundtable today. The agenda, first off, we're going to have Jeff Jabora is going to be talking a little bit about Allison James growth and how you can contribute to that. We're going to be talking a little bit about where you can get information that you need, and the key topic today, of course, is buyer contingencies and actually all contingencies and how that might affect buyer cancellations and how they get handled properly. And Jeff Green is going to be talking a little bit about pot grow houses, which is always a fun topic. And then we'll get into Q&A, and everybody, I'm sure, is going to be on the edge of their seats waiting for the end of this. But to start off, here is our National Director of Growth and Development, Jeff Jabora.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. All of you should know who I am by now. If not, now you do. Here's a picture of me. A lot of people claim that they have never seen me before. Well, here's what I look like. I'm glad to be on the webinar today. I don't tune into these very often, but I did want to take the opportunity to share with you that we have had phenomenal growth in the last 12 months. Much of that growth is directly linked to our agents referring other agents to us, and I want to thank you for that personally. Every time you refer an agent to us, not only are you going to get paid, you're also helping the brokerage grow. And as we continue to grow, we're going to continue to add more value and more tools to the brokerage. If you remember a couple of weeks or maybe even a month ago now, we had sent out that questionnaire about what you feel would add more value to the brokerage. We had an overwhelming landslide of people say they wanted more tools and marketing and that sort of thing. What do? We implemented the new marketing tools. One of the reasons that we're able to do that is because you've referred agents to work with us. Once again, we're going to continue to grow, and as we continue to grow, we're going to add more and more value. So please, if you have other agents out there you know of that could benefit from working with our brokerage, please send them my way. Not only are you going to get paid, but it's going to just add to the value of working with us. So I appreciate all that you do. I appreciate everyone being such a strong advocate of our brokerage. It's your good name and knowledge and recognition in the industry that attracts other agents to us. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over to Ken. Thank you, Ken.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Great information. And speaking of information, we get a lot of information requests from agents asking, what's this, what's that, where do I get this, how do I do that, what are the rules if it's agent-owned property and I need to sell it, what's our NAID number, where's my CDA, what's the brokerage license number, etc. We love talking to you, y'all. I was just in the South, so that's where that y'all came from. We love talking to all of you, and but it really would be better when there's pieces of information like this that are readily available. If you could get them directly, and these answers are available 24 hours a day. You don't have to wait for the broker to call you back 7 days a week, and it's just a treasure trove of information at faqs.allisonjames.info. Hope everybody will please jot that down, keep that bookmarked on your computers, in the browser on your phone, because you can get a lot of information there. It'll answer many questions that you might have. Also, you have the forms that are available that if you're selling your own property, if you have an interest in a property and you're going to be selling it, there's some things that you have to do to comply with our E&O insurance requirements. Many companies won't allow you to represent yourself on your own property. We're able to do it, but you have to follow some rules, and it's very important. If you don't, there's a deductible of about $25,000. So you want to make sure you follow the rules on these things. Anyway, that's enough about that. That, by the way, is the brainchild of our Northern California broker, Jeff Green. Thank you, Jeff, for doing this great, and it's been in effect for quite a while, but we still have people that don't seem to know where it is. So please keep it in mind that this is where it's located. The main topic today is contingencies, and I'm sorry if we've got some noise going on here, but the main topic today is contingencies. What are they? Well, everybody's probably pretty familiar with what a contingency is. Under contract law, they are the ability of a party to condition their performance on the occurrence or non-occurrence of another event. Everybody knows the example of a buyer can condition their performance on a purchase contract based on the outcome of the buyer's inspection. If they're dissatisfied with the results of the inspection, then they can cancel the contract. There's some common examples of loan terms, buyer inspection, lender approval, sale of property, and many others. For example, somebody who's purchasing vacant land may want to condition their purchase on the city's approval of building plans or approval of being able to even build anything on vacant land. So there's lots of ways, lots of contingencies that could be involved in the sale. The ones that are included in the residential purchase agreement are, of course, the inspection. Occasionally, people will get a waiver of an inspection. Inspections definitely can be waived. We don't recommend it. If they're not going to have an inspection, we need to have a waiver in writing, but they can waive it. Others, of course, we've talked about loan, approval of disclosures, insurability of the buyer or the property, HOA and condo disclosures. All those are included in the RPA. Are any mandatory? There are really only two that are mandatory. The first is the federal requirement for lead. If the home was built prior to 1978, the seller is obligated to provide a lead paint disclosure and provide the buyer with the opportunity to do a lead paint inspection. Also, what many people don't realize is that TDS is mandatory, provided they're not exempt. There's some things under which they're exempt, like a trust. And the TDS, after delivery of the TDS to the buyer may cancel within 3 days or 5 days if it's mailed, just based on what's on the TDS. Courts have actually ruled that if the TDS wasn't provided, they could cancel the day before escrow closed without any penalties. This is applicable to residential 1 to 4 unit properties. So pretty important to make sure you get the TDS. Now, one question that has come up a few times is it possible for the seller to insist on there not being any buyer contingencies? And kind of a surprising answer to that is yes. They can do that, but they have to provide the disclosures, all the disclosures that are normally required, like the TDS and the SPQ and all that, prior to the offer being made, so that the buyer can review all that stuff prior to the offer being made. And if the home was built prior to 1978, they also have to provide for a lead inspection opportunity. But interestingly enough, they can do it without any buyer contingencies at all. On short sales, everybody's pretty familiar after the last few years with short sale contingencies. In order to have that short sale contingency, you need to have include the SSA on the offer or on the counter offer, and it requires that you get written consent from all lenders, or of course the buyer may cancel. So we've got all these contingencies. How do we remove these contingencies? This question comes up every once in a while. Ever since they changed the RPA a couple of years ago, it has to be in writing. I guess it was more than a couple of years ago. It was about 5 years ago they changed it so that it has to be in writing. It used to be that they had a passive removal. We'll talk a little bit about that further, but it has to be done in writing. If they don't remove it in writing, it's not removed. It's still in effect. And after 17 days, or whatever number the parties have agreed to, if not the standard 17 days, they need to remove the contingencies in writing. Now, what about if there's a missing disclosure? Do they still have to remove the contingencies? The answer to that is no. If there's a missing disclosure, seller has to provide the missing disclosure, and then they get 5 more days to review or cancel if they're not satisfied with the disclosure. One thing you really need to be careful of, a lot of times we find that people have not seen the preliminary title report or haven't signed off on their preliminary title report. If they haven't been given the preliminary title report and show some evidence, little initial signature, they've accepted it, beware, because courts have held that they can cancel anytime if they haven't been given the prelim. So it's a very important thing to make sure that you get that in front of them, make sure they sign that they've accepted and received a copy of it. So what happens if we don't remove them? Well, it continues until the escrow closes. Loan contingency, if it's not removed, they can cancel right up till the day before it ends, before escrow closes. So that sounds like a pretty nasty thing for the seller. Here they got their property off the market for a month or a month and a half, and then the day before they cancel. So what can the seller do about it? Well, they can issue a notice to the buyer to perform, and that can be issued either when it's due, or it can be issued prior to that by 2 days. Notice to buyer to perform usually is a 2-day notice, and so you can, if your contingency removal date is coming up, say tomorrow, June 25, we could have provided the buyer with the notice to perform yesterday, and we give them 2 days till tomorrow, the date it's due. If they didn't get it done by tomorrow night at midnight, we could cancel on Friday morning. So if you're going to protect your seller, and of course you want to get your seller's okay on this, but if you're really going to make the buyer do what they're supposed to do under the contract, it's really a good idea to keep them on track and get those contingencies removed. How about if they haven't removed the contingencies? Can they still do more inspections? The answer to that is no, not unless the seller allows more time. They don't have any rights to doing more inspections. They have the 17 days to complete their inspections and remove contingencies, and that's it. So how about closing? Is closing a contingency? No. It's a term, it's a condition of the contract, but it's not a contingency. If they don't close on time, we use the other form, DCE, which is the demand to close escrow. And if the buyer is demanding to close escrow and the seller won't close, which happens every once in a while, then what do? Well, CAR recommends that you consult with an attorney, because you may have some opportunities to press them for specific performance to make them actually sell the property, but that's beyond the scope of our expertise. We don't want to act as attorneys or provide legal advice to people. So the key thing is to recommend that they seek legal counsel. Removing, as we said, has to be in writing. It's called active removal. Passive removal would be like it used to be, that they expire at the end of a certain number of days. But all CAR agreements now require active removal, which means they have to be in writing. One issue that comes up from time to time is, suppose the buyer discovers some sort of a material defect after they've removed all their contingencies. One thing came up recently with, they took up the carpet and discovered there's this big scratch on the nice hardwood floors. What can they do about it? Well, of course they can cancel. They can cancel if they want to anytime, but what happens with the deposit? The answer to that is it really depends on the situation. If the seller was hiding the defect, they may have a very good case for getting their deposit returned. If the defect was visible and the buyer just didn't notice, then they may have some problems with it. But the key point is you can cancel based on an open contingency. It's specifically allowed by paragraph 14, but it's not an unlimited right to cancel. A lot of people think that, well, okay, I've got 17 days, I can just cancel for anything. But that's not the case. It has to be in good faith. And what the lawyers mean by good faith is that you did your best to follow through, and it's something, there was something either in disclosures that you weren't satisfied with, or you did your best to get the loan, you weren't able to get the loan, and you did whatever you could. Bottom line on that is that the buyer cannot cause failure on purpose. If the buyer fails to provide the lender with the information they need to make the loan, or they don't complete the applications required, or they apply for a loan, if they've put a 5% loan on the RPA and they're applying only for 3% loans and they can't get approved for a 3% loan, then that doesn't give them the right to cancel. It's not in good faith. Sometimes maybe the loan's approved, but the buyer refuses the loan and says they can't get the loan because they don't like the terms or something. That's not a good faith refusal. So speaking of loan contingencies, rates and points should be filled out on the RPA. Most people don't put anything in there, but it should be filled out. Whatever the upper limit of what you think you are willing to accept. And then you have to make a good faith and diligent effort to get that loan. And be sure and fill out that financing section. Sometimes people will counter it, but it really protects the buyer. On the inspection contingency, we talked a little bit about it. That has to be for dissatisfaction. You can't just inspect and then cancel because you decided you want to buy somebody else's house. There has to be some reason, some dissatisfaction. You don't have to state the reason, but you have to have your reasons, because if you get into arbitration, the arbitration judge is going to ask you for your reasons, and you better have some good answers. So so that's it for the inspection contingency. On deposits, probably the messiest piece of buyer cancellations is whether they get their deposit back, and sometimes the seller holds on to it, fights them with it, and whether they get it back or not really depends. If they've exercised their contingencies in good faith and canceled within the contingency period, then they should get it back. It shouldn't be a problem. But the key point for your practice is that don't provide assurance to your client that they're definitely going to get their deposit back. You need to explain contingency rights to the client, and that they may be entitled to their deposit if they've exercised a cancellation in good faith. But there's no guarantees. These things end up going before judges that sometimes don't have a whole lot of real estate experience, or they may not believe your client's testimony, and they can lose. So we can't be in a position of guaranteeing it, but the key thing is just to make sure you follow the steps correctly, and you should be okay. I've got another. Do we have any questions at this point about cancellations, Victoria?
We do have two questions, Ken. The first one here is, can the seller add to the RPA via a counter or passive contingency removal, or are passive removals no longer allowed?
Yeah, the seller can counter to make it automatic removal after a time frame, provided both parties agree. They can do that.
Okay.
And we've seen that done a number of times. And actually, it's fairly common on bank counters. A bank will have a standard counter on REOs sometimes that requires a passive removal.
Okay. And our next question, if the buyer does an inspection as part of their RR, they ask seller to provide further inspection report, would the contingencies stay in place beyond the agreed time in the RPA until the seller provides that report?
Well, like I said before, the contingencies don't go away until they're removed in writing. Now, if this was a situation where they'd agreed to a passive removal, then they would need to either get the seller to extend the contingency period for that additional report, or they would need to cancel. But if it's not a passive removal, then yes, the contingencies would continue, because they always continue if they're not removed in writing until close of escrow. So yeah, if they ask for additional reports or something, then the seller either has to provide them, and if the seller refuses, then of course they can cancel. They've got the opportunity to cancel the buyer.
Okay. And
anything else?
We have another question. Ken, what about the AVID for the disclosures contingency period?
The AVID for the disclosure contingency period. Well, the agent's visual inspection disclosure is something that should be done within the disclosure. You normally have 7 days for disclosures, and the agent's visual inspection disclosure, particularly from the seller side, the listing agent, should be done within that 7 days.
Okay. And that's it for the questions right now.
Any reports like this, as I mentioned, any of these disclosures, if they're not provided as required, then the when they are finally finally provided, the buyer has another 5 days to review and or cancel based on what's in there. Of course, any of it has to be done in good faith, and it's not good faith wink wink. It's it has to be done in good faith, because if somebody really takes it to court, you need to be able to defend the decision. Okay?
Okay, perfect.
So that's it for cancellations. We've talked quite a bit in the past on some of these webinars about disclosures, and one of the things that is kind of a fuzzy gray area about disclosures is hearsay. You hear something from a neighbor or whatever, and Jeff had a recent occasion to have this come up, and so we added some things to the FAQ site, and here's Jeff to talk about hearsay.
Well, good morning, everyone. So this comes from a real live discussion with an agent, and I've had this discussion a number of times. So whenever we get issues or questions that are repetitive, we write an article for our FAQ site. So there is an article on the FAQ site about this. It's called Handling Hearsay. If you want to find the article, the easiest way to do it is to go to the FAQ site, go to the search box. It's on the right-hand side underneath the blue section, inside the black bar, and just type in the word hearsay. But here's what typically happens. The problem is you're told something that's hearsay that may or may not be of concern to your client. It's really critical that you decide right away that you are not the filter. You're not going to filter whether this is important to your client or not. And even if the information is unsubstantiated, the information must be communicated. And really how you communicate it is absolutely critical. It could be something like, hey, you know, the neighbor shows up and says, hey, you know, the last tenant that was in there grew pot. Now, why would that be important? Well, the buyer they may have lived in a neighborhood where someone was growing pot and they saw illegal activity. They're afraid of people coming by. That's really, it might scare them, you know. For some people, it might make them happy, you know, who knows. But another neighbor may come by and say, well, the cops are at the house all the time, and they've been at, or the neighbor's house, the cops are there. You know, there could be a number of things. So you as the agent, you do not know if what is being told to you is true or not. And you don't have the responsibility or the wherewithal to investigate these items. So because your client may be concerned and may want to investigate further, you cannot hide hearsay from your client. Even if it's going to kill the deal, you have a duty to let them know about it. So the solution is there's a 3-step process. And it goes like this. The first step is the agent has heard or the agent has been told. So you communicate, and this is going to be in the form of an email, which must be copied to your SkySlope transaction address. So it goes into the log. Agent has heard, and you state what was told to you, who told it, and when. Agent has not verified, buyer to investigate. So here's an example. I'm the agent. The neighbor across the street runs into me when I'm going over to the house, maybe to let an inspector in. They say, hey, you know, these guys that lived in here before, they grew pot. And so I do my best to find out where they live, the people that are across the street. Yeah, it's the guy across the street. Hey, what's your name? My name's Jeff. Oh, hey, my name's Bob Smith. Hey, thanks, Bob. I really appreciate you telling me that. And so I'm going to write up a little thing that says, hey, Mr. Buyer, I was at the house yesterday, and this neighbor across the street named Bob Smith told me that the previous tenant was growing pot in the house. He told me this yesterday afternoon, you know, about 2 o'clock. I just want to let you know I haven't verified this, and if you have concerns, you need to investigate this further. And they may ask you, well, how do I investigate it? Well, you know, you can call the police, you can do whatever, you can ask neighbors. That's something that's going to be on you. You're going to have to investigate it. That's outside of the scope of what I do. So it could be a number of situations. You could be told that, you know, hey, the guy had a backhoe in the backyard and he was burying something, or you know, it could be anything. You know, they added that room back there without a permit. Well, you don't know that, and it's not your job to find it out. But it's really critical that you use this 3-step process. It does a couple of things. One, it takes the responsibility off of you for owning that information, and it also makes it very clear what your position is in terms of verification of the information, and also the buyer's responsibility to investigate. So that's it right there. If you want to read the article, it's on the FAQ site. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Okay, I have a question here, Jeff. How do you handle an email from a neighbor if you are the selling agent?
An email from the neighbor if you're the selling agent, and I'm assuming that the neighbor is basically doing what somebody would be doing verbally, right? So what I would do is I would just tell the client, the buyer, or what was it the question if I'm the selling agent or the listing agent?
How do you handle an email from a neighbor if you are the selling agent?
Okay, if you're the selling agent, okay. So I would just tell I would do the same thing. I got an email from one of the neighbors. It stated this. This is the person's name. I haven't verified it. If you have concerns, please investigate it further. You know, it would depend what the issue was. You know, I would tell them if it was a concern about the building or whatever. I would direct them to the, you know, to getting a home inspection or things like that. But definitely, you definitely have to. Anything that you're told, you can't own it and you can't possess it and you can't hide it. Any other questions or?
Okay, great.
I think that's
thanks a lot, Jeff. That approach on disclosures. There are other kinds of disclosures that have the same kind of formula that you want to make sure that to cover yourself. If the seller states something like they repaired the foundation last year, but they don't provide you with any kind of a report or an invoice or anything on what they did, you can provide that information to the buyer's agent, but you want to make sure that you let them know that it's not verified, that you weren't able to verify it, and they need to verify it if they wish. Always those kinds of things, when you don't have specific disclosures in writing, you want to make sure that you send them an email and make sure that they understand that they need to do their own verification on it, because it's definitely not the agent's responsibility to verify those things. So for more information on any of this, a very good location is the legal section of car.org. It's a source of a lot of the things that we use in these roundtable presentations from month to month. And the FAQs, as we mentioned before, .allisonjames.info. If it's not there, please put in your question there and we'll get you an answer. And if you need it right away, then call Ken or Jeff. Here's our contact information. And that contact information, by the way, is also on faqs.allisonjames.info. So if you don't remember this stuff, just remember this, faqs.allisonjames.info, and you'll be all set. Any other questions from anyone regarding the topics of today?
We do have another question here, Ken.
Okay.
Can the buyer's agent hold out for the seller's agent Avid and add the 5 days?
Well, the the seller's agent visual inspection disclosure, that specific form, is not necessarily required if the listing agent is not specifically required by law. You are required by law to do a competent visual inspection and disclose that. That can be done, however, on the TDS. So if we don't do that at Allison James, but some agencies allow their agents to just write a little blurb in the inspection block of the TDS, and then they're covered. But we don't do that. So, but if they provide you with a TDS and there's something on there, then you don't have anything to hold out for. It may not be as thorough as you'd like, but you can't hold out for that.
Okay. We have another question here as well. Can you give an example of a deposit being returned to the buyer after all contingencies have been removed?
Well, yeah, it could be very possible that that all contingencies have been removed, and then they discover some major defect in the property that was being hidden by the seller. And if that was the case, they'd get their deposit back. They may have to go to court to get it, but they'd get their deposit back most likely. And I'm sure there are other examples of when that might happen, but that's one I can think of right off the top of my head. Anything else?
Nope, that's it for right now.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody for coming. There's some more information here. If you have any need, you want to find out about any new laws that have been passed with regard to real estate, anything new about forms, here's some locations for those. This is a legal update thing that I subscribe to. There's a free newsletter and reports on John Giardinelli's website. He's an attorney for several different realtor associations, including Pacific West, which is my home association. And so that's very helpful information. And we have lots of future events. This broker roundtable is the last Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. So plug it into your calendar and read the weekly broker update. Jeff and I provide you with the broker update every week. We try to condense the information that we get to you every week and just get you in one blurb. So please read your emails and check out that broker update. There's a very, very good iPad training in Murrieta on July the 14th. The guy that teaches this class is really good. He's an agent who operates in both Las Vegas and San Diego counties. And this seminar is really excellent. So if you get an opportunity to go to this, please be sure and sign up for it. Tomorrow is a really big deal. There's an agent marketing training tomorrow, June 25th at 10 a.m. It's going to be on a webinar. You've all received an invitation to it. If you can't find that invitation, let me know, and I'm going to be sending out another copy of it so people can register for it. If this is really, really good stuff. One of the things Jeff Jabora mentioned about our growth is that Matt and Jessica Crumbaugh have really made a commitment to, as we grow, not just trying to take money out of the company, but investing that money into the company, try to make it grow and make it better for the agents, provide a better environment for the agents. And one of the things that the agents have all said they want is more tools for training and marketing and all those kinds of things. Well, they've really stepped up and paid for agentmarketing.com, no charge to you guys. You get property marketing, virtual tours, unlimited media, personal websites, niche websites for your properties, lead generation, IDX tracking, full color printing. It's just incredible, the quality and the variety of the tools that are available to you at no charge just for being part of this wonderful 100% commission company. So by all means, please take advantage of it. And I will be sending out another email to let everybody know about it. So please, it's tomorrow at 10 o'clock. We have events just about every Wednesday, online or in person. We've got something for you. And be sure to tell other agents you know, because you can eliminate all your fees with the residuals you get from recommending other agents, and you help the company grow. And so we can provide even more services for all of you. So thanks again for coming. Really appreciate your coming. And tell all your buddies to show up for the next one next month, because we really try to give you important information, and there's nothing more disheartening than to have somebody call me up and ask me a question that we just covered on one of these webinars. So anyway, thanks everybody, and have a great week.
Thank you.